So, so this is pretty much like a private lesson, in a way.
In a way, yeah.
So, um, do you have any questions or requests to put into my thinking here this morning?
Not really. I must admit that I have not been doing much practicing because I
Yeah, you haven't felt well.
haven't felt well.
Understandable.
I did finally read over the number seven notes from yesterday and did some of that, some of the whole form, the whole flow yesterday.
Yeah,
I felt good. But
good. Did you have any other questions about seven from looking at that?
nothing came up.
Uh-huh. Okay. Um, so we're going to look some more at seven today.
Oh, that's good.
um, One of the things that we haven't r- really focused on up to this point is that the head roll part of this, um, at both top and bottom, really has um, separate positions that you're working through. So what I'm saying is that when you're coming up at this, you have a side position here and a back position and another side position, and then you go down and there's a side position and a forward bottom position and another side position. And so being aware of going through that, I mean, it is a curve, it is spherical, um, but it isn't just up and down. Um, and I know you know that, but I wanted to emphasize it because when we get into this practice today, that's one of the things that that we'll be looking at.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm going to have to make sure to make those small because
yeah.
one of the effects of this cold is a little bit of vertigo.
Ah,
Yeah. So,
and and that's absolutely appropriate. I'm gonna, in a way, talk about that a little bit later too. But
yeah.
with this, particularly with movement seven, it is important um, to not overdo at all.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, better to underdo to begin with, and then develop that. We, we can talk about that a little more as we go along. Um, so my thought was that rather than plunging straight into seven, that it would be good to do a little bit of the rest of the flow
Mhm.
and then do a do a pretty full um, sequence of movement seven. And when you come to seven, I'm going to ask you not to go straight into the movement, but to pause for a moment.
Okay.
And I will start talking about what you're doing a little more
Okay.
at, at that point. So my thought is just to do 4 repetitions of the earlier postures,
You ready?
unless you want to do more. I,
Um, Let's make it 10
Okay,
or 8 or something. Sometimes 4 isn't enough to get into it.
okay. No, I completely agree, but I didn't want to overdo
Yeah.
um, your wherever you are physically at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I think I could do the 10.
Okay,
Pretty,
let's do
pretty
that then. That's good.
good.
So as you stand there with your hands at your sides, begin to feel the stretch, the extension in your body from your head to your perineum to your feet. And that, of course, includes the crane neck beginning. So now begin to go into the movement and be aware of the back of the spine. Remember, when you go forward, you want to feel from the back of the spine, but you still have to have the crane neck. You want to feel your spine all the way down to your tailbone. And using bend the bow if you can without any effort. And then focus on the posterior longitudinal ligament as your head is going down. As you start to go to the side, lift from the back of your spine. Now lifting from the front of the spine, opening up the throat and having the head go back. And as your head goes back, you should feel your perineum and head sinking to your feet, causing the spiraling in your feet. And as you come up, focusing on the anterior longitudinal ligament in the front of the spine. Feel the vertebrae in the front of the neck lifting all the way to the crown of your head. As you go to the side, continue to stretch that, but you have to lift the other one up a little. You have to let the ribs close on the other side. Go as far as you can to each side. Good. I felt a little like you were rushing today.
Well, I tend to go fairly fast.
Yeah.
Could well be.
So, how did you feel about the movement of the neck?
Um, I'm usually unclear about the crane's neck, and so it's keeping the crane's neck through it through coming up, and I'm not quite sure what that feels like
Hmm.
because um, I think I want to exaggerate the crane's neck or not do it at all.
Well, you would like to get in the middle of that.
Yeah.
um, you know what it needs to feel like is that you are opening the the spine in the neck.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, as soon as you lift the head and tilt it slightly forward, you can feel the spine open. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Um, but feeling the opening of the spine is what you're trying to really feel there. Um, um, One of the things about the movement of the head is that it actually is moving energy through the brain,
Mhm.
and so having the crane neck makes that effective. If you don't have the crane neck, it doesn't.
Mhm.
And um, what I was talking about earlier is when, for instance, when you go to the right, it moves the energy from the left to the right. And when your neck goes back and you're not bending back, you're lifting the crane neck back. You're not closing off the spine. You're keeping the spine open, but that moves the energy from front to back through the brain, actually clears the energy. And as you go to the other side, it moves the energy from the right to the left. And it does the same thing at the bottom. So it's um, those movements through those top positions are really important. And eventually you can feel a little bit of movement through the brain. But keeping um, the, the spine open is the first thing you've got to feel. Um, and it's you. For me, the hard part was not tensing the neck
Mhm.
because I wanted to really extend that and doing what I just did actually closed it off. If I relax my head just a little bit, I can feel it open. So it's and it probably would be easier to see if I would go back to equal size pictures here. Let me just I get to talking, I forget to do my Zoom work here. So the movement of the crane neck through there is really important. Um,
And the head is doing a um there is a side to side tilt in it.
yeah, the everything is yes.
Yeah, I can certainly feel the tilt in the midriff, I mean,
Yeah,
in the spine, but beyond that, there is more tilt in the head.
yep.
Okay.
Well, there's more rotation in the head. I'm not sure I want to say tilt, but um, because there is not, um, it isn't that when you get over here, you're going to bend, let the neck collapse and tilt further. Um, it's that you're maintaining the crane neck and the rotation so that in addition to circling at the midriff, the head is also, the neck is also circling. So the neck and the rest of the spine are turning in relation to each other, but obviously not the same amount. The neck is able to rotate more than the spine is.
Okay.
Yep. So there's another thing that you've heard me say that's in Taoism called the golden thread, which means a lot of different things in Taoism, but a thread, it's a thread that's almost invisible, but it connects everything, which is why it is called gold because of its value. And what you're doing when you're getting the golden thread throughout your whole body to be activated by this turning. So that's what that's about. The ultimate value of the spine roll in God's Plane in the Clouds is that it's at first stage, it's the first stage for really starting to open up the central channel so all the links between the central channel and the left and right channels get made. The second value is it is also another thing that can move everything inside your body at once. And that's, of course, very valuable. And of course, it is good for your spine. But also, besides being good for your spine, these actions are going to put a lot of energy in and out of your brain. And that's what I was talking about a minute ago. It's very good for opening the brain for whatever purpose, not just intellectual stuff. Within meditation, this was said to be helpful to clear out the fuzziness that appears in the brain due to physical and chi reasons, not due to the to any sort of karmic reasons whatsoever. Just reasons simply based upon the nature of you have a physical body and how your physical body has to adapt. Um, well, that you can read later. Um, there's a whole thing here about really what we were talking about earlier, that at the beginning of doing gods and doing movement 7 in particular, it's better to start doing only 50% of what you think you can do, or even less if necessary, than doing too much. Um, and that I think you're very aware of, so that's not a, doesn't seem to me that's a big issue for you.
Mm, I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's-
Um, Doing too much, making movement 7 too big too soon, particularly if you have any spine issues, um, actually can have a damaging effect rather than a beneficial one. So better not to overdo it all in movement 7, and just allow it to develop over time.
well,
So
I think for me it's going to be a fine line, point, whatever, of of being stiff and not and being, you know, I'm thinking I'm moving in the direction of being stiff instead of overdoing it.
I see.
So
Yeah. So relaxing.
yeah, especially the head and neck.
Yeah.
You know, I don't feel that I'm being stiff in the rest of my spine.
Uh-huh. Good.
That feels the smooth, but the head and the neck, and I go,
Yep.
and it's not moving the neck at all.
Yeah. Well, and I will say it took me quite a while before I felt really any comfort in doing this. Uh,
Okay, good to know.
what?
Good to know.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are certain parts of this practice that are just really slow to come, I think. So, um, the rest of what you were doing looks pretty good. Um, the one thing I was going to mention is it seemed to me in 4 and 6 that you might put a little more awareness into getting the elbows to rotate downward as the arms go up. And that's difficult in a way. It's more difficult in 4 than it is in 6, um, because of the way we do 4. No, 4, that's reversed. 4 is easier because your the rotation leads into dropping the elbows.
Yeah.
But in 6, what often happens is the elbows tend to go out. And we have to once you really made that connection with the etheric body, if you drop the elbows, they can drop as you go up in 6. And that also releases the shoulder, because there is a tendency, if the elbows lift, to lift the shoulder, to put effort into the shoulder. So you might just, I think, put a little more awareness into
Mm.
dropping your elbows in those two.
Yeah, because there's a
It it really facilitates releasing the shoulders.
okay, because I those are the two that if my shoulders, arms, or whatever are going to catch,
Yeah,
they're going to catch going up there. And so sometimes it's ju- ju- ju-
yeah.
but
But it
but
was,
if I can get my shoulder blades right, it works.
yeah. And I think if you can get the elbows to rotate downward, it will also help that.
Yeah.
Um, Certainly made me feel better. So, do you have any other God's questions at the moment?
Just when you were talking me through that, you threw in the bend the bow, and
The C curve, yeah.
okay, so it's just the crane's neck and C curve. It was just another way of saying the same thing you were saying, or were you
Ah,
something special,
well,
something different?
so as you're as you're doing this, the back could stay, the back from the base of the neck to the sacrum could just stay in its position and just rotate. Or it can bend as you go down and straighten as you come up. So um, it that makes it a little more effective, but doesn't have to be present right at the beginning. But it's the same um, bend of the spine that we talk about everywhere else. It's not it's not something different. Um,
Well, and putting that in so that the focus on the downward is on the back of the spine, and the focus on the upward is the front of the spine.
yep.
Makes that
Can you hold on a second?
sure.
And let me. Hi, Bill. How are you? Good. I'm in the middle of a class. Can I call you back in a little bit? Okay, will do. Bye. Um, it was just a student, an old student from the Lyman Senior Center that I haven't talked to for a while, and I just wanted to.
Uh,
He was calling me, so I just wanted to tell him I would call him back after class.
but
Because he can be hard to get a hold of, so sometimes. So
yes, so if he called you that he's near his phone.
he's around, yeah. So, where were we? I'm sorry, I interrupted that.
No,
Oh, this is
that,
bend the
yeah,
bow, yeah. Um, so that's something to think about working on as you
yeah.
go through this. Yeah, absolutely. Could be helpful. Um, so, in the form, do you have any particular questions in there?
No.
So, I was thinking that we haven't really focused on the form for a while, that um, maybe we should um, think about being really specific about some of the elements, like twisting, maybe. um, because the thing about this form, as we are clearly aware at this point, is that it's very subtle, and there's an awful lot going on, um, sometimes very quickly and very subtly, virtually without sometimes obvious physical movement.
Mhm.
Because at this point, I'm assuming um, that that you are able to actually twist um, the fascia, and it is not, your movements are not purely physical, that you are now beginning to move into a deeper layer. Um, and so I was just thinking we could kind of look at at least some of the beginning of the form and think about that in more specificity.
Mhm.
Um, so, um, oh, that wasn't what I meant to do. Huh. Oh, David. Eventually, I get there.
Do you have two different cameras? Is that what does
Yes,
it?
I do. Um, so, um, turn on the other light. Obviously, at the very beginning of the form, um, in alignment with opening and closing, there is a very subtle twisting also going on, in the arms and legs, and ideally through the entire body. And then as you begin to sink into that right leg, we're actually, of course, twisting inward. And as you step, it begins to twist out. And then you have a twist in and a twist out into G. And as you go into Lu, it goes out and in. And the on is also an in and an out. So there's a whole lot going on in there,
Mhm.
as we go through that. And it goes pretty fast if you're moving quickly. So um, as we work on this kind of thing, I really suggest that we that you do it pretty slowly sometimes in order to find the coordination to be able to do that. So if we are twisting outward and inward, and one of the things to remember, of course, is that you can switch from thumb edge to little finger edge instantly. You don't have to always be using the same edge, and it may not be the same one from posture to posture. So we're twisting in, twisting out, twisting in, out, out, in, out, in. Out, going to the other side, in, out, out, in, out, in, twisting in, twisting out, in as you reset, and out into single whip, and in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So just going that far, does that raise any questions for you?
I'd like to go over the beginning again, where there's so much in and out and so little movement.
Okay, sure.
Because most of the once we get to single whip,
Yeah,
it's really
more.
it follows the
Yep,
physical movement.
yep.
But
So,
with
in just thinking about this, so when you begin to spiral down into the right, you're twisting in, and then out into pung, and that's an outward movement. And then G, you have a little in and then an out. And flu rollback actually has that out continues for a moment and then comes in, which is typical of rollback. And then on, you're drawing their energy in and then out as you push downward, bouncing them away. Um, Question or just do it again?
let's do it again.
Okay. Do you want me to turn around the other way, or is this helpful this way?
Why don't you turn around the other way?
We really want to have that opening and closing before we begin. It's really our preparation in this form. So there's twisting outward and twisting inward. And then as you begin Taiji, twisting in, then twisting out, in, out, out, in, out, in, the transition, out, in, out, out, in, out. What? Oh, so question about that?
Um, I know I don't think so, but I will, it's nice to have a focus on something specific to work on
Yeah,
in the form.
yeah, good. Well, I don't know if I have anything else today.
I'm not sure I can absorb anything else today.
Okay. Um, oh, what am I doing here? Some days I don't seem to know what I'm doing with this. Um, well, I will stop struggling with it.
That sounds like a wise choice.
Yeah. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you very much, David.
And
I think I'm going to call Shelley and see if we want to, you know, regularly I go over there before class and make sure she's set up, and then either go on out to your class or bring my computer and set up in another corner
uh-huh.
and do class together.
Okay.
Multiple Zooms.
Sure. That would be good. Check with her and see what would work.
Yeah.
I think usually Craig sets it up for her, but she just they failed to communicate this morning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he does. But it
Yeah.
might be nice to be able to have, okay, he doesn't have to worry about that because I'm going to show up and set it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this sounds like this is I think being very hard for Craig too.
That's got to be.
Yeah. I I just I get so sad when I think about her. So,
Yeah.
well, I
Yes.
hope you have a good few days, and
Thank you.
I'll
I'm
see.
I'm hoping to get to see my mother on Thursday.
Oh boy, okay.
Well, we'll hope that I'm not I can take enough cough medicine so I don't
Right.
cough all over her.
Well, maybe you'll stop coughing by then, even.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
Got 3 whole days, could be.
One gets tired of coughing after a while.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Okay.
Say hi to John.
And say hi to Jane. And
Okay.
good luck with your roof
Thank you. Whenever it comes.
whenever it happens.
Yeah. Take care. Thanks,
You too.
Carol.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.